Let's talk about why we want to do the KPI review sessions. We know that most of us are doing the work. We're showing up, we're putting in the effort, but often if we're not tracking the right numbers, I'm better at tracking social media metrics, Lisa. That's funny, eh? Some of us prefer the numbers and prefer to stay away from social media, and it's the opposite as well. So one of the things we know is that if we're not tracking the right numbers, it can be very difficult to tell what's actually working. I do a lot of stuff with marketing because that's where I tend to support people. And I know one of the most common things is I don't know how to tell if this is working or not. And as small businesses, solopreneurs, a lot of us are, or micro businesses, we don't want to be putting our time and energy into something if we can't tell if it's going to work, right? This is not just somewhere to spend our time. It's about the results that we need. So the reason we're going to do KPI review sessions is to give us that simple, consistent routine we need to get comfortable with our data, to start having a moment in the month where we know what we're going to take accountability for, what we're going to track. We're going to have in the workbench I'm going to share with you, you'll have a place to park that data. The other piece of this is that psychologically, what we measure, we can improve. If we're not measuring things, it's very difficult to improve it. So a KPI review session is going to give us a chance to build up that habit of measuring these really important tasks and outcomes that we need for our business growth. Here's how it's going to work. Every month, we're going to meet and we're going to share our KPI targets and results. How much you share is up to you. I know numbers can be a very intimidating thing. They can also be a very vulnerable thing for sharing. And everyone is at different levels with their business. It's important to grow out of our comfort zone so we can get more comfortable with our numbers. I'm one to openly share them because it was something that I recognize the more comfortable I got, the more my business could grow. But you decide what your comfort level is with this. It's all up to you. But what we want to do is connect around our intentions and how things are progressing. Whether you share the specific numbers or not is a choice you get to make. I'm going to talk a lot about this. I'm a big fan of us having a shared structure. We're going to track 3 of same core KPIs. So everyone's going to track these. These are the core KPIs that will really show us how our business is performing, how it's growing. Everyone will track those. We're going to get into what they are. And then I want you to choose 2 to 3 custom KPIs tied to your goals. For those who go to the goal setting circle, this is a really great way to tie into that. In order to achieve those goals, there's something we need to be tracking, what we're doing, the results that we're getting out of. So I've built it so that they work together really well. And those will be custom because everyone's business is different. Some of us are product-based, some service-based, some are at the start stage, some are stabilizing or growing. So you're going to have the room to customize your KPIs with those ones. And over time, with us coming together every month and you tracking them, you're going to see the story your numbers are telling you. Karu and I just had a meeting this morning, and we do this every time we meet. And it's really incredible how our impression of how things are going can be different. And once we pull up the numbers, we can see the real story behind the business. So this is the value of tracking our KPIs. And coming together gives us that bit of accountability. I know I need accountability. I've been at this 8 years and still I need the built-in accountability. And also that power of having women together in the same room to share and to connect around this and to support each other. We have 2 tools that I've built. Choose to use them if you want. They're just support tools. For some people, you've got your own. That's great. Anyone who's ever worked with me in any of my programs, we do have a workbench. This is what I call my Google Docs that I create to help us work through what we're doing. I will show you. I have a little screenshot. I'm going to send the links out again. I have sent this, but I'll send it out again. So it's a Google Doc I've created. You're going to want to copy it and make your own version of it to save to your files. It's got the key dates, the links to all of our Zoom calls. It's got all the information you need, as well as there's a tab for each month into December. So what we have left of 2026, I've given you a tab with a chart, a little table that you can record your KPIs in. I like to make things as easy as possible for us so that we can focus on the work. But if you have your own version, definitely go ahead and use that. So that's our workbench. The other tool I've created for this is a companion GPT. This is a chat GPT. It's a custom one. I'm a big fan of these. If you're really into having, I'm a verbal processor myself, so I really like to think things out by talking. This can work really well for you. What it is a custom AI tool that'll help you create or calculate your KPIs. Karu took it for a test run for me already. She really liked it. Thanks, Penny. Penny and I were talking yesterday. So this is a really great one in between sessions to help you either choose those custom KPIs, which I'm going to talk about. They can be a little complex. It can also do the calculations for you for your core KPIs. And this is what that looks like. It's got the little sun for our Grow to Lead. It's pretty easy to use. I've built into it, so it's got programming to help us based on the structure we have here for our sessions. So Carrie did drop this in the chat, but I want to know, does anybody know what a KPI is? Not just what the word is defined, like what it stands for, but also what's the value of it in your business? Does anyone have a sense of why would you want to track KPIs? What are they and how do they stand out from normal metrics? Does anybody? Joanne, it's lovely to see you.
First, I was like, I totally know what it stands for, key performance indicator. And then you're like, no, not just that. But no, it's useful for your business because it is obviously something you can track how your performance changes over time. And so like obviously it could be a number like your profit margin that we ideally want to see growing, but it's something that you can use as data to help your business go in whatever direction you want it to go.
Beautiful. That's exactly it. There are, as we've talked about, there are so many metrics we could be tracking. And as solopreneurs or small businesses, we really need to work harder, not smarter. Anyone who's gotten into metrics, it's like, oh my gosh, there's email open rates, there's click rates, there's website traffic, there's social media reach. There's no end to numbers and metrics we can get overwhelmed with. KPIs are exactly what Joanne said, key performance indicators, which means they're the ones we want to pay attention to because they tell us if we're headed in the direction we want to take our business. So we get selective with them. It's that 80-20 rule. We focus on the 20% that's going to get us the 80% results. That's why we want to be focused and intentional around which ones and why I've built this out the way that I have. So as we said, it's a key performance indicator. And you can hear right in those words, it's showing us how we're performing, which is important when we're growing our business. The direction we head in has to be very intentional and focused. Otherwise, we end up scattering in a million different ways and we don't make progress. So what a key performance indicator is, it's that number that reflects how your business is actually performing compared to the goals we've set, which is why the goal setting circle works really, really well with this. We have to put our flag in the ground, and this is where we're trying to go. And the KPIs will help us track if we're en route or if we veered off. It's important that we understand it's not a one-time check, right? There's no value if we just pull it up once and we look at it. Sometimes it can make us feel good. Sometimes we can be like, I'm closing this window. I don't want to see this number. What we want to do is the routine of this will help us make it a consistent signal that we're watching over time. It's like watching the pulse of our business. And that's where the value of it comes from, because the right KPIs are going to tell you what is working, what's not, and what you should do next. I know in business, because there is no end to options of what we could be doing, there's a million different ways we can grow our business. There's a million different pieces of advice and suggestions and inspiration we can pick up. If we don't have a method for getting focused and really tracking what we're doing and accountability, we end up very scattered. And then our business isn't able to grow. And then we get locked in that paralysis analysis where it's like, I don't even know what I should be doing. I don't know what works, and I have no idea what to do next. I love KPIs because they save us from that struggle. So when we get together every month, what we're going to do in our KPI review sessions, we're going to track two kinds of KPIs. You can do as many as you want. There's definitely, you don't have to follow my rules. I just like to give a structure. So we have that to start with. I have three core KPIs, which Joanne touched on one. One is profit margin, which is that's a juicy one, and it can be very complicated and very different for every business. And it's incredibly important as we're growing our business. We track that. So we have three core ones, and I'm going to go through each of them so we know what they are. And then we have those 2 to 3 custom KPIs that you're also going to want to pick based on your business and your goals. So our core KPIs, these are going to be the same regardless of your business or what you do or what stage you're in. First one is our total revenue. That should be the easiest one. It's funny. I know I certainly could not have told you this in the first years of my business, what my total revenue was. I was just happy there was any money coming in. But getting a sense month to month what revenue we have in, not only does it help us understand the health of the business, we also start to see patterns, which is really, really nice for planning, for campaigns, for marketing, all kinds of reasons. Second one is going to be your profit margin. This one is sticky, very, very sticky. A book I would recommend, we just went through in my business book club, would be Profit First. If anyone's like, not really sure how I feel about profit or what it means to me, that's a great book to read. But just money coming in doesn't mean much if all the money is also going out. So profit, that's an important part of business, especially if we're looking to grow. We don't need to grow our problems and our responsibilities if we're not getting more back from that. And then the third one is your top revenue stream. Understanding which of your products or services is bringing in the most money is another really important piece for growing. You can also evaluate it based on the profit margin. That's a nice, important thing to know. This is going to determine what you want to have more of, what you want to be promoting, what you want to be putting your efforts and energy behind. Yeah, thanks, Carrie, for the link to that. It's a really great book for anyone who hasn't read it. It also helps us plan things around marketing because it shows us if you have a top revenue stream, that's probably what's in demand. Usually there's some things we want to sell and those can be a little harder and so they don't sell as well. The things that sell the best tends to indicate there's demand for that, which usually means it's a pathway to growth. So every month we want to track all three of these. I'm going to go into each of them again. So total revenue is going to tell us, is the business growing? And fluctuations are completely normal. We don't want to have in our minds, every month has to be more and more, but it gives us the overall trajectory. Total revenue, which we probably all understand. I know Vanessa certainly understands this. It's all income received in a given period. There are, Vanessa, we might have to ask you some questions as we go around. I know even when I am trying to calculate revenue, it's like, is it what I've invoiced? Is it what's come in? So even though it looks pretty simple, figuring out your system for calculating your revenue and getting into the habit and routine of it is really important. We want to look for that pattern over time. We don't want to have just one good month. I'm just as guilty of this. I have like little ego goals of I want a 10K month, I want a 20K month, but we want to be looking over month to month how things are going. You're going to have, depending on where your bookkeeping system is, you're going to find this in different areas. So either if you have bookkeeping software set up or invoices or bank deposits, once a month, you're going to go through this, you're going to haul it all out, and you're going to calculate your total revenue. Okay, where do you include? Yeah, this is where we're going to have to ask Vanessa. Vanessa, we're going to be tapping into your expertise for sure. Profit margin is our second core KPI. This is the difference between solopreneur and CEO, 100%. As a lot of you know, I'm a single mom of 3. I was, for the beginning of my business, I didn't care about profit. Any money coming in was good. I also am a service-based, so I have low overhead. But profit is really the difference between something like a jobby, which is a job and a hobby, or a business. This is really what we want to be aimed at. If we're not there yet, that is okay. It is completely normal. Most businesses don't make money for the first, I think it's 3 to 5 years. A lot of us were self-employed as the start of our business, so it has to make money. It's not something you want to have an emotional tie around, which it's completely normal for that to come up. We can feel imposter syndrome. We can feel like we're failing if we don't have the profit. We want to be able to create some space between that and the story we're telling ourselves about what it means about us. Our business is not us. It's not a reflection of our value. It's a skill set to learn. That's all that it is. And profit margin is one of the skill sets we want to learn. So your profit margin is what is left over after expenses are paid. Simple like that. It gets a little more complex. In the best case scenario, you are including paying yourself as one of your expenses. So it's even what's left over after you take your piece. For those of us who are solopreneurs, we might have to calculate it a different way. You need to decide what that looks like for you, but you want to do it consciously. Everything about these KPI review sessions are about doing it consciously. So revenue will tell us what the business is able to bring in. Margin is going to tell us what we're keeping. A lot of the times we can run businesses and everything that comes in goes out, or even worse, we're actually subsidizing our business and we're paying more than we're getting in. The goal as we grow is this profit margin. We want a very healthy one. That will differ, depend whether you're product-based, service-based. Carew just did hers. She's brick and mortar and product-based. So her profit margin is going to be a healthy profit margin is going to be very different from someone like me. I work from home and I'm service-based. So same, depending on your bookkeeping system, how you've set up your tracking, which some of us might have to start setting up tracking. I am not great with it. Don't tell anybody, but you're going to find it in your bookkeeping software or however you calculate it yourself. Revenue minus expenses. This does mean you also have to keep track of your expenses. It's kind of built in here as a background piece, which we should be doing. We want to know what our business is costing us to run. And our third KPI, our third core KPI is going to be top. Yeah, there's time for questions at the end. I won't talk at you guys the whole time, I promise. There's time. We're going to do a top revenue stream. It's important when we have a lot of different ways to work with us or a lot of different products to sell. We want to understand, where is the money really coming from? How is the market? My marketing brain is there. How is the market engaging with what we offer? What are they indicating they really respond to? So your top revenue stream is the offer, service, or product that brings in the most income. Quite often it can surprise us when we look closely. When I started calculating mine, I was surprised because we all do, a normal bias to what I like to work with or what's the most recent in my mind. Off the top of my head, I would say, oh, this is definitely what's bringing in the most money. But when I slow down and look at it, it was a completely different story. So you're going to find this in your invoices or your sales record, and you're going to want to break it down by offer. Okay, I got another question for us. Of those three, revenue, profit margin, and top sales, top revenue stream, which one do you already check regularly? Elaine, you've already talked about revenue, or which one is brand new to you? So if anyone wants to answer that, just put up your hand. I'll remove myself from spotlight. Is there anybody tracking those regularly? Any of those? Is there any that's new to people? Is the one I check the most. Revenue. Yeah. Bookkeepers are a godsend, aren't they, Carrie? Yeah, I need to set that up. Okay. I track them mostly. Oh, do you track all of them, Melissa, monthly? Revenue. Yeah. Revenue is the one I track the most. Least good at profit margin. Yep, that's why we're going to do this. Okay. Good, good, good. Love it. I like that we are tracking some. Definitely important if we already have that habit built. Yeah, into my computer accounting system. Lovely. Okay. Do not track revenue. Yeah. Revenue stream, the top revenue stream. That's an interesting one once you get into it. So those are our three core KPIs. Those are the ones everyone's going to track. They're like having your finger on the pulse point of your business, right? And again, we'll know when we have a good month. We almost always know when we're having a really good month or a really bad month. We feel that emotionally, but tracking it is going to help us start to see trajectories and cycles, which really business is one of those things you need to have those moments where you pull back and you see the big picture and you get out of the day-to-day, and tracking it like this is going to give you that opportunity. The other kind of KPI we want to track is our custom KPIs. So we're going to have two types of indicators. I love this. Jade, I know, can't be on the call. Jade and I have talked about this before. These are lead indicators and lag indicators. One of the things I know we struggle with is when we're setting a goal, it can take a while to get to the outcome. It's like an iceberg. There's a lot we have to put into a new thing we're launching, or building an email list, or building up our social media. We have to do a lot before we can check a box and say, oh, my social media have grown, or I've gotten so many people into this workshop, which is why we want to have lead indicators. Lead indicators are the activities that drive the results. These are the posts published, the calls made, the proposals sent. They show that you are putting things into motion right now. And often when we're first beginning something, it can be difficult to stay motivated if we're not feeling progress. And because it can take so long to see the results showing up in our business, we can lose momentum because we don't feel like we're seeing the progress of it. Yes, today we're going to lay the groundwork today. I want us all on the same page. I also don't want to make you guys calculate KPIs immediately at the end of June. So you're going to have the month of July to go into the workbench and start to do your calculations. Our lag indicators are usually what we think about KPIs. So these are the results. These are the revenue, the bookings, the profit. They show what's already happened. When you're choosing your custom KPIs, you're going to want to have a mix of the lead and the lag indicators, depending on where your project or your offer is. So if you're first starting something and you made KPIs that were all the lag KPIs, the results, it can take months to get there. And you can feel like you have nothing to show for your progress. And it's very hard psychologically to keep the momentum going. As solopreneurs, we are the engine of our business. Like if we can figure out how to work with our human minds and keep ourselves feeling encouraged, it makes business a lot easier. We can't work around it. We're not machines. So we want to make sure we have both lead and lag KPIs.
Cheyanne, just before you go on, maybe you're going to do this, but could you give an example, maybe even from your own business, of a lead and a lag? Because actually, even in my own mind, I had a different idea of what lag was. So it sounds like lag. It sounds like something very negative, right? But could you just sort of give an example of each of those?
Yep, I do have some examples later, but quickly, so for mine right now, during the summer, I like to bring people in June so that I know who I'm working with over July and August. I don't have to do any promo. I can, just focus on what's already sorted. I got 3 kids at home. So my lag would be not consultations, growth strategies booked with my larger businesses, or people brought in to work with me for marketing training with my solopreneurs. That was the result I wanted. That was my lag KPI. In order to do that in May and June, my lead KPI was promotion and 30-minute conversations booked, because I know I have to put the word out there and invite people, and I have to have my 30-minute discovery calls. And then I would get to my lag KPI, which is the overall goal that I want. So it's a little bit like breaking down and reverse engineering what you want to get to. I wish business was as simple as saying, like, this is what I want, and in the next 4 weeks, it's going to be done and dusted. It's much more complicated, and we need to break it down into what do I need to do first that will then give me the pieces that allow me to get to that goal. I'm going to have a couple more examples of it as we go as well. I know it's a little complicated, which is why the custom GPT is trained to also, depending on very common goals that we have, I've built it in to give you possible lead and lag KPIs within that. So when you try something new, results take time to show up. If you only track the outcomes, you can take too long to see those results and you have nothing to monitor, right? You can't improve if you can't track it. So if you're trying to fill up a workshop and you're not tracking how many times you're posting and promoting, you can't tell if you need to promote a workshop 30 times to get 15 people in if you didn't track how often you were promoting it. You want to track the activity first. And then once you get that and it's established and you understand, okay, I know as long as I promote it 30 times over 2 months on these 3 channels, I overall tend to get the amount of people I need. Then you can move more into tracking just the lag KPIs. But this is one of the challenges that I see quite often when we're trying to get something new off the ground. We give the pressure of just tracking the results, when what we really want to give ourselves is the recognition of tracking the efforts. So here's a question. Has it happened to you? Have you tried something new and then you didn't track anything along the way and you lost momentum because you weren't able to tell if it was working or not? Has anyone ever had that where you've been trying to do something, you've been trying to launch something new, you're putting in effort, but then you don't see anything happening, so you just give up? Yeah, all the time. Yeah, Leah, yep, struggling to track. Yep. Yeah, so this is so common. I've certainly had it myself, which is why I wanted to make sure as we're setting KPIs, we want to set ourselves up for success. And we want to be realistic, right? This is business. There's multiple activities that have to occur before we get to the results. I always say we can't just we're not Athena. It doesn't just spring fully formed out of Zeus's mind. It takes time and it takes tracking those efforts to be able to get to that big end result we want. So those are that's how we set our custom KPIs. You want a mix of that for these custom ones based on whatever goal you're going to set as we go along every month or whatever, however you work. Some of us work in quarterly goals. You're going to build your KPIs around those goals that you're actively working towards right now. And those will shift as your priorities shift. One month you might be promoting one thing, trying to launch something, building a website, whatever it is. And you're going to set them and revisit them to match your monthly goals. So our 3 core ones stay the same. That's how our business is performing. And then these custom ones, we want to evolve as we go. Some examples.
Just slide in here because Melissa gave a great point. Even though we're meeting monthly, and you're saying this as well, the results won't be monthly necessarily. But, as and Melissa was saying, it takes sometimes 60 to 90 days to have results. So when we're tracking both the leads and the lag, we don't feel we're absolutely failing because we are like, oh, but there are leads. They just haven't translated yet into results. And so we have to nurture those leads, and follow up on those leads. And so there's sometimes action on our part. So yeah, I love that. And what what it reminded me of is that these monthly sessions aren't to get hard on ourselves when we don't see monthly results. We're going to have to give ourselves some time. And that's as well why the support of this group is here, I feel, so that we can remind each other of that.
100%. There's nothing worse than working your butt off on this big task and being like, I have nothing to report. I don't have 10 new clients, so I can't say I've reached my goal, right? That's not real. It's not reality either as a business owner. Being able to say, I promoted it 30 times, that is real work. It's real accomplishment. So we want to be able to acknowledge that as well as build in that support for ourselves and for each other in it. Exactly. That's why it's designed this way. So common goals, and this is where I'm going to break it down into examples so we can really see how this can apply to us. I know from working with so many of us and being a business owner myself and being in goal setting circles, these are some really common goals we tend to have. Launching a new product or service, growing a social media following, generating more leads or inquiries, building local visibility, growing an email list, filling a workshop or event. These are not things that we can usually do in 30 tidy days. They're not things that we can say, okay, at the beginning of the month, I'm going to set this and then I'm going to have the results. There's a lot of effort that goes in at the beginning, which are our lead KPIs. So examples, let's say you want to grow your social media following. Your lead KPI would be posts published per week. Your lag KPI would be the follower growth month over month. So instead of setting a goal of I need to grow my social media and then saying, oh, I only had 1 person this month, or I've had 0 people this month, or I lost someone this month, and feeling like you're failing at it, the only way to grow a social media following is to be doing that lead KPI. And it can take time to figure out what produces the lag KPI. So if you post for 2 or 3 months, your accomplishment could be posting 3 times a week. That's the target you set and you're accomplishing it. That is genuinely a key performance indicator, because without that posting, your social media following is not going to magically grow. It also accounts for the learning that has to happen. Just because you're posting 3 times a week doesn't mean it's going to automatically go to follower growth. And this is a piece that I find way too often. We have such high expectations and so much pressure on ourselves that we feel we need to move through these things really quickly, where it takes time. You post 3 times a week for a month, you find 3 or 4 of those posts really performed well. The next month, you lean more into that style of posting. So you're still not at follower growth, but you are very firmly moving down the line. Angela, that depends on your business goal, whether it's views or followers. These are just general examples. But understanding that you want to give yourself that recognition of tracking your lead KPI. Because without that lead KPI, we won't get to the lag KPI anyways. Both of them are important. Another example, filling a workshop. Your lead KPI would be the amount of times and places you've promoted, and your lag KPI would be attendees who registered or people who attended as well. I am incredibly guilty for this, where even as a marketer, I will be like, okay, I'm going to run a workshop. And then instead of setting something for myself of accountability and tracking of how many times am I going to promote it, how many channels am I going to use to promote it, I lose track of that. So that's why we want to build it in as we do our custom KPIs. We want to acknowledge both the lead and the lag. The lead tells you whether you are doing the work that's going to help you get there, and the lag tells you whether it is paying off. Both of them are required. We both need to be setting the rhythm and the routine of doing the work. That builds habit. It takes often, if you're doing something new, it takes new skills, new habit. Maybe you need to bring in new support. So we want to recognize that and build it into these KPIs. And then the lags of
over. Cheyanne, just interesting. So you just sort of said something that was different than what I thought. So lead is, you're saying, is the action. And then the lag is I understand the result part. I'm also sort of thinking of, so the lead isn't like the number of people that signed up for the workshop, the attendees, or the lag is those who actually showed up.
So it can depend on what your goal is, right? If you're established with workshops and your goal is to improve workshop conversions, then your lead could be the amount of people you got to register, and your lag could be the amount of people who attended. If you're first running workshops, your lead would be, I have promoted these workshops because I don't do that regularly yet. I have to establish that. And the lag could be this many people attended the workshop. So
I love that because it ties in. Then there's no, I mean, it ties in with the goal setting, which we do at the beginning of the month. Because if you don't know what your goal is, it's really hard to know what to track. And I think the two go together. And of course, we're doing it a little bit backwards here because the end of the month came first. But there's a bunch of you who are already in our monthly goal setting. So I love how this is going to dovetail together. It's cool.
Yeah, that's why it's key performance indicators, right? We're not just tracking everything. If there is a goal we're moving towards, we want to give it the attention of us being conscious about what we're doing and focused on how it's performing. So these are very fluid. And again, that's why we have the companion GPT. If this is difficult to kind of wade through, it's been trained to help you get there with your individual project you're taking on, whatever your goal is. You can tell it your business and your current goal. It'll ask you a bunch of questions and it'll help you identify strong lead and lag KPIs. A lot of variety in this. It's definitely not a one size fits all. It depends on what you specifically need to improve for your business, which is why it's all custom. You can use it anytime between sessions as your goals shift, when you want a second opinion, what you're tracking. If you're not a AI person, so we have the custom KPI that you can use, the companion KPI. It'll help you talk through it. I like to literally talk to it. If anyone doesn't use the microphone and you're a verbal person, it's amazing. It's just like, it's a captive audience and you can just like brain dump into it and it'll sort it out for you. But in your KPI workbench, you'll also find a guide there. So for anyone who prefers to just kind of go old school and work through it manually, I have it broken down there as well. Or if you're already familiar with this approach or you have your own approach, feel free to go that way. And homework. If anyone has not been involved with me, I love to give homework. I'm all about making sure we do our tasks so we can get the results. For July, what you're going to want to do, old school approach. I like to make sure we're accounting for everyone. Not everyone is as into the AI stuff as I am, but it's good to use. So for your July targets, I want you to go into the workbench or wherever you're going to track this. It's nice to have a central place. I want you to set your targets for your 3 core KPIs for July. So your total revenue, your profit margin, and your top revenue stream, and your 2 to 3 custom KPIs. If you have something specific you're working on, pick some KPIs around them, lead, lag, a mix of it. And before we come back in July, at the end of July, the 31st is our next review session. You're going to fill in your results, and then we're going to get into our session and we're going to share. It won't be me talking at you. I'll save you guys from that. It'll be, did you meet your targets? If you want to share your targets, there is a lot of power in saying those numbers. There's a lot of power in facing the emotions they can bring up and claiming them. When I first started, I was making $350 a month. That was my income from my business. And it was like, oh my gosh, I am not a business owner, right? Like, it brings up so many stories. And this is such a great supportive container. It can help you move through that. But we can keep it general. Did you meet your targets? And then also, why or why not? That's the gold here, is having that accountability and also being okay. Like, I've had a hard month. Life was lifing, so that didn't happen. How can we learn from that? Or I completely I underestimated, and I should have set a higher goal. I was hedging. So we want to look at that. And then talking about what are our targets for next month? How are we going to adjust? That's the tracking. Everything gets to be informed by data when we sit down with our numbers every month, and we're tracking them, and we're seeing the reality of our business also with us, how we're showing up. If we set a goal, and I have done this so many times, I'm like, I'm going to post, so much, or I'm going to do so much. And then realistically, I'm never able to do that. So I have to revamp my strategy to something that is sustainable, something I can produce. So this is the point of coming together every month to track these KPIs and to share them. Quick recap. We're going to go into questions. I'm also going to talk about what's coming up for Grow to Lead. Carrie and I are really excited. We got lots of cool things coming up over the summer. So quick recap, 3 core KPIs, the same for every business every month. Our revenue, our profit margin, and our top revenue stream. You're going to build 2 to 3 custom KPIs picked around your business and what your current goals are. As Carrie said, it's designed to work as a system with our goal setting circle. So they reinforce and support each other. You're going to look at your lead versus lag. You want to be mindful you're tracking the activity before you're making yourself accountable for the outcome. We want to give ourselves grace and also be realistic that that's how business works. You've got 2 tools to support you. If you want them, I'll send them out with the recording. I'll send links to that again. Workbench document. It's a Google Doc. You want to copy it and get your own copy of it, as well as a KPI companion GPT that I have set up for us. What we have coming up in Grow to Lead, we have the goal setting circle July 6th. Carrie's going to lead that for us. That's a focus session to set our business goals for the month. So it dovetails really, really well with the KPIs. They work together. And we have the summer speaker series that starts July 9th, which is going to be 5 interactive workshops helping you step into your CEO era. We're going to cover that shift framework. We have Aileen's going to be there. We're going to have some really great presenters for these. I have the honor of kicking it off, all about strategy, on July 9th. As members, you can use your credits to get access to all of it and the 5 recordings. Really, I'm really excited for this series. I'm excited to do mine, but I'm also excited to be there at everyone else's. And we have our next KPI session on July 31st, which is crazy because that's going to be like halfway through the summer already. It goes quick. So I know that was a lot. We've got some time. I know there's quite a few questions in the chat. Oh my gosh, there's 43 messages in that chat. I love it. Carrie, anything specific that stands out?
Yeah, so Leah had a question, and I'm going to get Leah to ask it more specifically. So Leah, could you ask your question again in the chat, just so we understand exactly what you need? I'm going to put that there. She had a question about ink, and I wasn't completely sure what that meant. The question was originally, I'd like to understand more about this. I think as an incorporated business, was that the question? Yeah, as an incorporated business. Yeah, yes. Okay, so I don't know if Vanessa wants to weigh in here. I think this was talking about, and I'll let her, if she wants to type a slightly more.
I think, Carrie, it was related to what I had asked about where does HST fit into this? Is that right, Leah? Because whether or not HST should be factored in, I don't think as revenue, but where do we factor it in as someone who claims HST? How does that number get inserted into this process, either as someone who's a sole proprietor or someone who's incorporated, which is where I think Leah was coming from.
From
Okay.
my understanding, HST is completely separate from revenue, but Vanessa, I'm gonna tag you in. You're our expert.
Yes, that is correct. So if you are collecting HST, you are simply the middle person collecting it on behalf of the government. So what I do is I actually have a separate bank account within my checking where I put all of that money that I've collected so that I can look and I know that that's not mine. Because sometimes it can be a little tempting depending on how often you are remitting that to the CRA, especially if it's like your first year and you don't do it for almost a year and a half. That number can get quite large. So I like to keep it separate. The only time it's a little bit confusing is if you are not registered for HST, you can include that in your expenses. So if you pay $100 for an item, you could claim the expense plus the HST paid. So you'd claim the 113 as that deductible expense. But once you are registered for HST, then that no longer applies to you. And that would be the same as if you're incorporated or a sole proprietor partnership. Whether or not you have to collect HST is that $30,000 number.
Beautiful.
The thing about QuickBooks is that, I mean, I know QuickBooks isn't perfect, but when you enter, I know that I and my bookkeeper use QuickBooks, so it enters and it identifies the HST, so it never logs as revenue for me. It just is, it does it automatically. So that's a nice use of QuickBooks, for instance, to sort that revenue into HST versus revenue, real revenue.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason for my question was because I have just done this for the first time, so it was very interesting. I did a lot of phone calls to CRA, but the like in their system, you do include it in your like total revenue. HST is included there. So then you have to have a separate number for
Yes.
so that's just where my mind was because I've been doing this whole process with them. So that's why I
Yeah.
wanted to ask. But it makes sense to keep it
Good
separate
point.
from this in this for this KPI tracking. It does make sense to keep it separate because it isn't your money. And I like the idea of siphoning it off to a separate account. That's a good one.
Good
So to
question.
answer Leah's question, I'm hearing it doesn't matter if you're incorporated or a sole proprietor, it's the same rule. Does that help, Leah? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, good question, right? There's so many nuances to this. If we don't start tracking it, we can't figure out these nuances. We have to spend the time looking at it and deciding where does this go? What does this mean? Or else we never figure out these little pieces of it. Really good questions. Anything else? Any other questions around the KPIs and tracking and our sessions together? Saw a lot of agreements in the chats. These numbers are important. It's especially as we tend to be very heart-centered. We love what we do. We love showing up. We love pouring into our businesses and supporting and providing for community, industry, however we're working. Spending time really looking at the numbers and the performance and having some tracking and accountability. It's a nice space to create so that we can grow the businesses in that way.
I'll just also say that these sessions are not meant for us to compare our progress to someone else's. And this is a trap I've seen people fall into a lot. So just as you show up, just in your own mind, we are all on our own journey. We have different kinds of businesses. We're often at different stage of business. So don't let yourself talk yourself out of showing up because you feel like this month I didn't do well, so I'm embarrassed to show up. Actually, I think showing up is the fuel that we need to see that other people also had a slow summer, maybe, or, that we can get back on track, even if we've gotten off track. That consistency is not flashy, but it is the magic formula to keep showing up. And so I thought I would just add that in there as well.
I think it's also the antidote to the highlight reel thing that we have going on social media,
Yeah,
right?
which is destructive.
Yeah, you just talk about all the good things and how amazing everything is on social media. And these kind of rooms are where we get to get real, because there's no such thing as a business that's always easy, always growing, you're always perfect. It's not the reality of business. The further I go and the more I connect with other people, you realize what's showing up on social media is not how business is actually done. And you learn it in these rooms by being open and really claiming, I'm an entrepreneur and this is what it looks like for me this month. It's not that I am not a real business owner. It's that this is what business really looks like. You start to see the commonalities and how, like Carrie said, some months it's up, some months it's down. Some months you show up, some months you get overwhelmed. That's real. That's what business really is. It's not the highlight reels on Instagram and LinkedIn.
No. And if you have questions, go ahead and put them in there. I'm not trying just to fill time, but I will also say that the added bonus of this is the visibility that we have in this group. We already know now that Vanessa is a bookkeeper, right? So it's like as we highlight different people, we bring people's thoughts and ideas in, but you showing up every month is also visibility for you and your business, because you just never know who on the call. And I mean, we're not here to, let's be all salesy, no, but just showing up, it's like, oh yeah, Joanne, does this, or maybe I'll follow up and see what Joanne does. And, this is meant to be also a hub, as we've already seen weekend being in the past, for us to connect in different ways as well. Although the focus, of course, here is KPIs.
Penny made a good comment too in the chat. It's a good way to really notice your expenses and what's actually necessary versus what is something that maybe you brought on and you don't need anymore. I have found the more I have these type of conversations, it also inspires you to be like, I hadn't considered about profit margin. I hadn't considered that I could have a profit margin of that. Seeing how other people are doing business rather than using it as comparison. It's like, Carrie, I love that saying you have, take the best, leave the rest. Sometimes you'll get pieces for yourself that you're like, oh, I like that she's, kept it bare minimum, or I like that she's added this piece. This might be something I want for my business. So being willing to be open and share, it helps us really inspire each other as well in terms of expenses or how we're approaching our business. Yeah. How we've modeled all of those things. Yeah.
And Penny's point about the expenses is key to our profit, because if we have these silly subscriptions that we signed up for that their profit leaks in our profit bucket is what I see. It's like, we need to be mindful. Where is the money going? I have a Wix website and they just increased that website by 100 Canadian or 200 Canadian dollars as of this month for next year. I'm like, ooh, and I have to be mindful of, is this the right website for me? Is this MailChimp the way I should be going? So unfortunately, as a solopreneur, we do have to make a lot of decisions, but these groups remind us, yeah, where are the leaks in the profit bucket? And hearing other people say, this is what I'm doing to fix that leak. I think that can also be an added bonus to this type of a discussion. So, because it all leads to how much profit we have at the end of the day.
Yep. And tracking and setting targets is how we get conscious about these things.
Conscious,
and
yes.
As women, this is also how we get empowered, because when we know what we want our business to look like, instead of just accepting those price increases or accepting that whatever comes at us, we get to evaluate and we get to discern and say, you know what, that's not the profit margin I determined I wanted for my business. And then we get to make choices instead of just receiving and being passive with however the business shapes itself. Yeah, lots of chat. I love this. Yeah, Carew did her calculation for her profit margin. She has been in business 20 years and she calculated it and found it. She has a very healthy profit margin for a brick and mortar and a product-based business. Carew, do you want to talk about that for a second?
Why, she's still in business.
Right.
20 years later.
Yeah. I didn't have the number for May, and then I wanted to make this one for whole year, so I went back to January, and then my profit margin was 24%, 24.7%. Yeah, and nice. I didn't know which is good or bad. So ChatGPT, the custom ChatGPT, tells me, this is a really healthy number. And then this is a little bit lower. This is really high. So mine was in the bucket of healthy number. So I'm happy. But I didn't know my number. So
Yep.
thank you.
Now you can be conscious about it, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole goal.
Yeah. And a healthy profit margin is between 7 and 10%. So you are making 24%. I mean, that's remarkable. Like 14, 15, 16 would be considered amazing. You're at 24.
20 years
So
of business, right?
yeah, and that's why you've refined some system. Yeah. Yeah, and we're all at different phases. Again, let's highlight that. But we can learn from each other in those ways as well. It'd be fun to have Cheyanne to spotlight. So like we just did Cairo, of course. I know next time we'll have more discussion, but teach us the thing that you have done to refine that KPI. I mean, there's all sorts of room in this for that, as well as we continue.
Yeah, Shauna, there is a different rule for profit margin for especially stay at home, especially home base versus stay at home business. That's what I am now. Home base versus brick and mortar. And we can talk about all that. We can get all of those standards, that baselines that we want to aim at. So Karu's profit margin is going to be healthy at a very different number than my profit margin would be. And that's why we want to spend time getting to know them.
We're going to give Cheyanne that homework. We're going to get maybe the next session. You can bring us what benchmarks are so that people can start knowing, I have this number. Is this healthy or not?
100%. We can get some good benchmarks to work off of. Yep. Okay. I see a lot of us have to hop off. Inspiring. Oh, I'm glad, Claire. And yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter where you are in business, right? This is not about comparing. It's not about judging yourself about how you're performing. It's about this is the skill we're learning and being comfortable with claiming our right to learn that skill, regardless of where we are in it. It means nothing about us. It does not reflect our value or even our capacity to grow our business. If I shared where I was 8 years ago, oh my Lanta, I would have bailed immediately, right? It's this confidence to claim it, regardless of where we are with it, that allows us to grow as entrepreneurs and then grow our business. Beautiful. Thank you for the inspiring words. I love that. Okay, we'll shut it down. Thank you, ladies. I hope to see you all at the summer speaker series first. And then we've got our goal setting, and then we've got our KPI at the end of July. It'll be great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Bye.